Yeah, I think it just on the same theme of it's only got the A plot. I really like the episodes where you've got a lot of interaction from the different characters aboard the station, and this very much isn't that.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
a
a good
bottle
point.
episode. It's not a load of drama between the different characters. It is involving 3 of these Klingons and Jadzia's interactions with them. So it does a very elegant job of following that, but it does mean that we don't get anything at all from Bashir. We get very little Odo and Quark action. It's, yeah, it is a very good episode, I think. I enjoyed it. I think that it achieves everything it intends to. I really like the fact that they could find these 3 actors from the original series, the 3
Brilliant.
Klingons from the original show, and they brought each of them back in as the same character, albeit with modern TNG-style Klingon head crests. They're looking distinctly different. Damn it, I should have lined up pictures of them in TOS versus them
Why
in DS9.
didn't we do that?
Oh, I didn't even think to.
I didn't.
Damn it! You have the powers of Google, people. You can go and look up Koloth and Kang, and marvel at the transformation.
Yeah, I'm sure it gets discussed in an Enterprise episode, and there's a whole subplot about it which I cannot bring to mind because I don't keep the Star Treks in my head that I didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy Enterprise. I'm struggling a little with Starfleet Academy because I didn't really enjoy Discovery. But this is the way of things, you know. But suffice to say, yes, they are different to their appearance then. It's not discussed in episode because we all accept that that's how Klingons look since TNG started. So that is just the way of it. I also enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it whilst acknowledging the same failing that you have, Kat, that it would have been nice to have seen more of our crew. We discussed in the setup that both Bashir and O'Brien are missing.
O'Brien.
Thank you. Are both missing from the lineup, but it's obvious that the intent was very much to frame this as a Dax episode with plenty of time for the supporting characters, and what little time they do have, I think Sisko and Kira acquit themselves very well. I enjoyed both of their one-on-one scenes with Dax, and it maintains throughout all of it this very intense, very well plotted, very well paced story. It is a quest throughout. It's quite visibly an old-fashioned quest of which Klingon battle hymns are made. You know, right at the end, Kor says, "You know, I will sing the song of this battle," and it's quite clear. Yeah, I would listen to that song because this quest of vengeance that they're on is so brilliantly plotted. So I really enjoyed that. I think the action's really well done. I love the fight scenes. Throughout, we'll have battle-less fights, which are very difficult. And it's easiest. Watching them, it makes me think, actually, for all we think of the Klingons as being these kind of very bloodthirsty, very quick, vicious warriors, the battle-less fight is very slow and very carefully coordinated and methodical. So it's actually it's quite elaborate, almost like a dance. And it's that interesting dichotomy between what we think of Klingons as being, you know, kill crazy, and what they actually are, which is very, very bound up in this warrior ethos with this incredible honourable tradition. I think that comes through in the very well coordinated battle fights we see in this episode, which I really enjoyed seeing. So I took away lots to enjoy from this. I'm sure by the end of the scene by scene breakdown, I'll have found a few things that I didn't like. That's the joy of the podcast. And as always, chat,
disenchanting you episode by episode.
Tear it all away, rip the scales from my eyes, confront me with the reality of a show made 35 years ago on a shoestring budget. You know, that's fine. I'm a Doctor Who fan, you know. Having these things destroyed before me is part of the course.
Oh God, Doctor Who, you can watch the sets fall apart as the episode progresses. But no, I agree with much of what you've said about this episode. I think that for an episode that brings a story to the station and has it play out, it's really well done. It's really well based in that world. It's written by someone who understands Klingon culture pretty damn well. And I think that having Dax interact with the Klingons is it's a real coup. It works incredibly well because you've got aging Klingons bringing the vestiges of their not a dying culture, but a culture that is changing, becoming less obsessed with the warrior side of things.
Yes.
And Dax is a young person who used to be an older person, who has interacted with both
Ooh,
aspects of
good
Klingon
point. I
society.
like that.
So
Yes.
she can both bring fresh eyes and she can bring her old eyes. There's a scene where she tells one of them that she still remembers him as the warrior he was 80 years ago and can remind him of that and bring that back for him. So it's a really rich idea, and I think they really mine it for all it's worth in this episode. And of course, it's great for developing Dax as well, showing her different sides of herself, pressing her to think about whether it's ever justified to kill someone, which I didn't enjoy the Cisco scene so much. I think that it was overplayed and just I think someone probably needed to say it, but I don't think it was necessary. But we'll get into it and why I possibly disliked it, because I'm an immoral fool. I just want to go and murder.
Okay.
If I ever murder someone, this isn't to take place. This isn't to be played in court.
Podcasts
in
are
my
not
defense. But
admissible.
if I'm ever found, no, podcasts are not admissible evidence. These are Klingons.
remember, if anything ever happened to Kat, we were all here talking to them. They weren't anywhere else. They were here talking to us, and that is their alibi, and that's job done. There we go. Problem solved.
Excellent, thank you. So now that I can go away murdering, shall we begin our scene by scene?
Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Woohoo! Dax then introduces herself and names some of Kor's old injuries to demonstrate that she knows him, naming which rib hurts and which of his organs hurts when he goes to warp 8. And when she's introduced herself as Dax, Kor initially says, "Kiss me!" And she says, "How about a great big hug?"
Yes.
Which, yeah, it feels in character for Kor to suddenly go, "Oh, you're my old friend. Now you're female. Do you want to kiss me?" Yeah, fine. It's lecherous, but it kind of fits with the character, as we'll see throughout the episode.
Absolutely.
I don't really have a problem with it.
Absolutely.
And we've got a picture of the famous meme that comes straight from the dialogue in this episode.
And there it is.
Goes on, my beloved old friend. I'm Jadzia now. Jadzia, my beloved old friend, which is held up by trans people as a perfect example of how to manage when you get someone's name wrong and how to welcome your friend when they tell you who they are now. It's lovely, and it's not really given any more time than that. That happens. He's happy with Dax. That's it. It's wonderful. I like it very, very much.
I'm really glad. I did say right at the beginning that I wanted Kat's perspective. Kat has a better perspective on all of this kind of thing than me, so I was very keen to understand. It is often held up in online groups as I think as an example of Trek inclusivity, and as well as an example of how best to interact with somebody when they announce this new arrangement to them. And the implication is that accepting it and moving on as swiftly as possible seems to be the best way. Would you say that's the right?
Yeah, definitely. If you make a mistake, don't linger on it, and certainly don't do that. "Oh no, how can you ever forgive me? Oh, whoa, I must go and kill myself immediately." It's not useful. It doesn't serve anybody. It just keeps the mistake in everyone's minds for long. You just go, oh no, so of course that's your name now, and continue. And ideally, don't snog your friend when they switch to your gender of preference, or assert themselves as your gender of preference, unless they actively invite you to do so. But otherwise, marvelous scene. I like it very, very much.
Fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that, Kat. Thank you very much. Because I do see it held up often, and I would hate for it to be built on a shaky undertone. But I think, however unintentionally, this really set a great blueprint for how to interact with that kind of situation. So I'm so pleased to hear that that is the right thing to do.
I think that there's a lot of Deep Space Nine where they do really good things with interpersonal interactions, which there hadn't been a lot of common public knowledge groundwork done for. I think that among queer groups, this stuff would have been fairly well known, hopefully, by that point. But yeah, to a general cis audience, this would have been less familiar.
Precisely.
And they get it right so often. I think the writers, they have a good grasp of intersectionality before the word intersectionality was in common usage. Possibly before it was invented. I'm just going to look that up. You can cut this out of the episode.
Yeah, no worries. Once again, chat, thanks so much for being with us and seeing this rare behind-the-scenes moment where Kat and I just kind of bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah, no, intersectionality was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989, so it was actually around, and they could have made use of it. As I say, it wasn't as commonly known and understood at that point. But yeah, I think Deep Space Nine does it without necessarily having the terminology about it.
It should end. It should end sadly. I feel that that battle was intense and frenetic, and it's Star Trek, which should mean that the balance of it is, wow, a lot of people died, friends died, this ultimately sucked. It was hard. It was horrible. Dax is left questioning herself. Great. That's Star Trek for me. There is no clear cut good has victory over evil, because that's not how Star Trek presents these battles. So I liked it. It was good to have a
Absolutely.
melancholic end.
Yeah. It's just occurred to me though, another
Mm.
thing that's I feel might be missing from this episode. It's about Klingon revenge, and they don't quote the famous line about revenge being a dish best
Best
served
served
cold.
cold.
This is a revenge that takes place many decades after the instigating incident.
Yeah.
It's a great example of revenge being a dish best served cold, and nobody says it.
What's
Guys, lean into your Klingon history a
I
little.
the
Oh.
there was so much opportunity to do even more with Klingon culture here, and they really fumbled the ball quite embarrassingly a few times. I hadn't spotted that one, Kat, but you're absolutely right.
I do think that overall it is a fantastic episode, and I think that
Sure.
they create enough and it fits well enough within what we understand of Klingons and Klingon culture and Trill culture and Deep Space Nine. It's pulling a lot of threads together. I do just wish that the scriptwriter had perhaps had the time and resources to go away and pull out some old Klingon quotes, some real Klingon language to use in the episode. Again, it would have been an extra nice thing to have had. But it didn't need it. It does work well enough
It
without
still
it.
works. It still works. Absolutely
It does.
agreed.
I'm just going to wrap up the scene
Please
and
do.
then the episode.
Yes, let's do it.
After Dax has remarked there is never a good day to lose a friend, Kor chants what is described in the script as a sacred Klingon funereal dirge. And in the script, he has his hand on his knife but doesn't draw it while staring down at the chest of the albino. I think it might be a reference to their having said that they would cut out his heart and eat it, but I'm a little surprised that he didn't pull out the blade and lean down. You obviously can't show that on television at 6 o'clock on BBC.
No.
But it just seems odd to have included in the script. His hand is on his knife, but he doesn't draw it. It says as much. I don't quite understand what was intended by that, whether it's that he's lost his taste for revenge at this late stage.
No.
I don't know. It's odd. It's a bit of a mystery.
It is. It is. And again, it jars with what we know of Klingon rituals, which is that when Klingons die, there was always the prizing open of the eyes and then the death howl to the air. So
Absolutely. It's
didn't see
completely
that.
different from what we saw in TNG. I do like the funereal dirge, but it isn't what we've seen previously, and there's no reason given for it being differently.
And without spoilers, this also will arise again in the future of Star Trek. So this is the exception. So again, it just feels like they were close to, but not on the ball with a lot of aspects of Klingon history and culture, which seems a bit weird.
It is a shame that they've gone to the trouble of bringing back 3 very old Klingon characters, but haven't included a lot of what came in between. But yes, Kor survives the battle while Koloth and Kang did not. And without overly spoiling myself, I'm aware that John Colicos will appear in 2 further episodes of Deep Space Nine, possibly as Kor. Who knows? I just saw on IMDb that he appears 3 times. And we then very quickly cut back to Deep Space Nine, where Dax arrives in Ops via the turbo lift. Kira and Sisko both turn to look at her but don't say anything. Dax resumes her station without anyone speaking. There's no dialogue in the scene. No. And she just sits back down at her station, looks at the screen, and the scene ends. We cut to an exterior and then to the credits. So yeah, again, she doesn't explain to either Kira or Sisko what's happened. Kira looks at her with sympathy, but neither of them knows at that point whether Dax did kill someone as they feared. We only know that the Klingons presumably did not go back to Deep Space Nine with her.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we jump into the outro?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I liked that ending because I felt like there wasn't much that could be said there. I don't feel like Sisko can be like, "So, Dax, did you stab anyone?" And you can't have that conversation.
No.
I think enough was communicated that Sisko basically just gave a disapproving look and went into his office. It fits with how he's been in this episode, although it doesn't fit with Sisko generally, which is, wow, my crew are always off creating shenanigans elsewhere. I'm just resigned to that. I think the implication was that, this is going to leave a weight on Dax. This is character forming for her in a way that I don't think yet Deep Space Nine has really demonstrated its ability to carry things over episode to episode. It does it now and then, and we love to see it. We pick up on it, and we're like, great to see stuff that happened in older episodes acknowledged again. To my memory, I don't think this will be, and I don't think that's a spoiler to say it's not going to
No,
be.
I think we're still very used to the episode opens with everyone in a perfect state of health, a perfect state of
Ba-ba.
mental well-being, just getting on with their days. There's no kind of, oh, that man that I had to kill a few days ago. It just doesn't happen yet. It doesn't happen yet. We have some episodes that lead one into the next, but yeah, for the most part, it's a clean reset, and I don't think Dax is going to be pondering the sorrows of Klingon culture in the next episode.
Exactly. And that's fine. That is the nature, as you say, of the storytelling we're doing at the moment.
Sorry, I've just read Dennis Bloodknox's remark in the chat saying, Dax then says, wow, heart tastes weird.
Heart does taste weird. You're not meant to know. No, it was all euphemistically described off screen, or possibly didn't happen. No, Dennis, you're making it worse than it was. You risk our PG rating, damn you. So I think we've been very honest with ourselves about the bits we didn't like, and yet we have still come away thoroughly enjoying this episode. I think it's safe to say. It's a credit, I think, to the storytelling that even with the stuff they missed, they still came away with a great episode. I think if they'd had it in and addressed the things we'd noticed and flagged, this would have been stellar. This would have been one of the best Star Trek episodes ever.
Yeah.
Was
I don't think it lines up against something like Duet, which was a really good standalone episode.
Perfect. Yep. Absolutely, thoroughly agreed. Or Drumhead, or something absolutely Measure of a Man. Something absolutely landmark.
Yeah, I think it comes away feeling like a nice curiosity, a lovely thing to have, but not one of the greatest episodes, sadly.
Absolutely. And just in wider context, I still think that's pretty good, because we are now coming towards the end of season 2, and we still have only had a couple of episodes that we both outright did not like. Whereas I think, comparatively towards the end of season 2 of TNG, I think there were probably more episodes we might have had straight out problems with. Like, this would actually be problematic. You know?
This season, for all that I don't like Vortex, nothing has hit the heady lows of The Naked Now. DS9 has been strong straight out of the gate, and it continues to do amazing things, which no other show at the time was doing.
Which is astonishing, because I think the advice that always comes down, I don't know if you ever got this advice, Kat, but the advice that always comes down is the first season or two of any Trek is hard work as they try and find their feet. And
not so for this.
Brilliant. For context, Kat hasn't seen Voyager yet, or any of the subsequent series, so they don't have that comparison yet, but it will be interesting to see once you do embark on Voyager, which I'm sure you will do with alacrity, if you feel the same, that there is that kind of bedding in period where you just have to suck up really naff episodes, which I don't think happens with Deep Space Nine. I just don't think it happens.
No, I think you're right. I think just however they did it, stealing the bare bones from Babylon 5, and then putting a lot of thought into the Star Trekness of it, how the characters would fit together, the actors that they've chosen. It was just so strong right from the beginning. Although it is straight, I did watch the first episode again recently, and it is odd going back and noting the small differences that take place. Even over the first season, there were a few things they changed. But I'm really enjoying Deep Space Nine in the first 2 series, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more.
Me too. I've realised I've pulled us into a very meta-contextual discussion of Deep Space Nine when I actually wanted any kind of closing thoughts from you, Kat. Sorry if derailed us.
There are some other things I've pulled from Memory Alpha. Again, if you're ever looking up information on the background of episodes for Star Trek, Memory Alpha is an amazing resource to have. On the return of the original series, actors Michael Okuda, the guy who made the Okudagrams, said, at first you almost didn't recognize them because they were in heavy Klingon makeup. But as soon as Michael Ansara opened his mouth, there was a powerful sense of deja vu. Having the 3 original Klingons on the show was magical for everyone. William Campbell said that this episode was his most difficult acting job and one he would have liked to do again, which I really like. Again, it doesn't say so on the website, but I think the technical difficulties of working under so much makeup, the hair, the thick padded costumes, and learning Bat'leth moves, and learning strange terminology, and being on an alien space station, and then driven out to a set elsewhere. There was a lot of work for the older actors in this episode, and they did an incredible job in it. And finally, Clactical Bracht, referred to
Mm.
in this episode, is later revealed in Enterprise episode The Augments to be the Klingon name for the Briar Patch, which was seen in Star Trek Insurrection. That's such a winding path to put in some background details about an area of Klingon space.
It's a bizarre bit of world building that ultimately doesn't really.
Insurrection just fell out of my head as soon as I'd seen it. I can't remember a damn thing except for Data floating upright in water in a horrible, eerie
Oh,
way.
that was so
It
bizarre.
was,
Um, like I vaguely remember there's a great scene where Patrick Stewart gets his arms out, and my God, that man was stacked in 2009 or whenever Insurrection was. My good God, Jean-Luc Picard is incredibly muscly, and the Enterprise gets a pasting, and Riker shaves his beard.
oh
It's
God, no! That's why I've written it out on my mind. I hate it when Riker shaves his beard
it's a
off.
very odd film.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
odd. So yeah, so all I can think is they threw that in as just a fun Easter egg and didn't actually take into context what if we build those two events to be taking place in the same place, what does that mean? And listen, we're sci-fi fans. We know that continuity and lore is kind of interchangeable and not the most reliable thing, but it just seems like such a weird thing to pull together. Why? Doesn't help anyone. Doesn't serve any purpose.
But it is kind of delightful for the fans to go, oh, I remember where Bractical there. See, I'm already mispronouncing it. Too many wines in.
The wine. Yeah, it's very strange. Thank you, Aurora, in the chat, who points out that the joystick for the Enterprise was the manual override column, which is just not a phrase I never want to ever come across ever again. So there you go. So this has turned into a weird rant against Insurrection, but listen, this is the truly unpredictable randomness of Deep Space Wine. You just never know what tangent we're gonna follow, friends. So, because we are now over time, Kat, any closing thoughts so that we may all retire to our sleep chambers?
Just that I really enjoyed this episode. I'm very glad to have watched it. I'm also glad to have done my, however, slipshod analysis of it. It's lots of fun going through these scene by scene,
Yes.
actually looking at the dialogue, making sure that I understand what's been said, picking up what's being done in each scene, because there's so much richness to it that I don't necessarily pick up on a first straight through viewing. So yeah, I continue to be really impressed by the show, and I'm just really happy to have a space in which to talk about it with Tim and to friends who consistently turn up and chat about it in chat. It's a really lovely thing to be doing. It brings me a lot of joy. So thank you all very much for being here.
That's what it's all about. As I've always said from the very beginning, the unique selling point of Deep Space Wine is that Kat has not seen it before. Kat's enjoyment of it new is a wonderful experience.
Naive and dumbassed. Yeah.
That's not at all how I'd describe it. It's more about how
It is.
we can live off vampirishly from your experience of it new, which we all miss, having seen it many times before. So it's a pleasure of ours, Kat, to go through it with you again. Okay, right, we are over time massively, so I'm going to bring us to an end and simply say that we will be back as soon as we can physically manage it with The Marquis Part 1, which is the next episode of Deep Space Nine Season 2, and will take us into like almost the final stretch of episodes towards the end of Season 2. So please revise, watch that, get your thoughts in order, and join us again here on Deep Space Wine when we will be discussing yet more of this fantastic show. Thanks so much for your time. Take care, everyone, and live long and prosper. Good night.
Blah.